this apocalyptic downpour, I relied on my enlargement ability to multiply our food supplies 100 times. Somehow managed to survive 5 years with my sister in the relentless rain. But the moment the rain stopped, she pushed me off the top of a skyscraper. If the enlargement ability were mine, Brother Lou wouldn't have died. Go to hell. When I opened my eyes again, the familiar outline of the living room gradually came into focus, and floating in midair were 2 glowing orbs, hovering silently. Please choose your respective abilities. My heart was pounding. I had actually been reborn. Back to the moment my sister, Guwan, and I were choosing our abilities. Guwan practically lunged forward, clutching tightly the orb that represented enlargement. Then, she looked at me. Her face lit up with a look of near ecstasy. You're not gonna fight me for it, are you, sis? I understood immediately. She had been reborn too. She remembered everything from our past life. I didn't let it show on my face. I reached out and touched the remaining orb. Then I'll take the shrinking ability. The orb merged into my body without any sensation. My sister visibly relaxed. She immediately grabbed the kettle from the coffee table, shouting excitedly, "Bigger! Bigger!" The kettle rapidly expanded, soon becoming so large she needed both hands to hold it. I watched coldly. This was the sister I had protected with my life in my past life. In that past life, during the downpour apocalypse, the world was swallowed by floods. I relied on my enlargement ability to multiply our dwindling food supplies 100-fold, barely enough to sustain the 2 of us for 5 years. But her heart was only set on Lu Chen from across the hall. She often stole supplies to help them, until I put a stop to it. "Gu Ning, you have the enlargement ability. What's the big deal sharing a little?" It was true I could enlarge supplies, but she didn't know. Our reserves were already nearly depleted. To save food, I often went hungry myself, just so she could eat her fill. Not only was she ungrateful, she ended up starving because of Lu Chen's family, and took all her resentment out on me. She pushed me off a tall building. "Gu Ning, look how useful my power is." She finally stops and turns to me. Her tone is light and cheerful. "Gu Ning, what can your shrinking power even do? Making things smaller? What's the point? It's a useless power." I don't care at all. "Yeah, it's useless. As long as you like it." The more indifferent I act, the more at ease she feels. Sure enough, the smug look on her face deepens. "You're so sweet." She tries to link arms with me affectionately. I sidestep to avoid her. "I'm a bit tired. I'm going to my room to rest." With that, I turn and head to my room. Outside, I hear my sister humming. Then the sound of her rushing out. She knocks on Lu Chen's door across the hall. Her voice is full of excitement. "Lu Chen, open up. I have huge news to tell you." I slowly sit on the bed and open my hand, looking at the faint stream of light in my palm, representing the power of shrinking. "My dear sister, do you think you've grabbed a lifeline? Don't you understand? Tall trees catch the wind." I look around the room. My gaze falls on the nightstand. On the half cookie left over from last night, I think to myself, "Shrink." A faint light flickers in my palm. The half cookie instantly shrinks. It becomes as small as a grain of rice, lying quietly on the tabletop. The power works. But what's the point of just making things smaller? I carefully pick up the tiny piece of cookie and put it in my mouth. The next moment, a familiar feeling of fullness comes from my stomach. It feels exactly like eating the original half cookie. My heart races. If a shrunken object retains its energy and function, then this is far from a useless power. In the apocalypse, human nature is more terrifying than natural disasters. My sister's enlarging power is conspicuous, and destined to be fought over, while my shrinking means concealment and safety. My phone's screen lights up. It pushes a notification. An extreme weather alert from the Meteorological Bureau. Heavy rain for the next few days. Only 3 days left. I must use my shrinking power to build myself an absolutely safe miniature world. I immediately contacted an agent and rented a small villa. I planned to finish the renovations before the heavy rain arrived, stock up on supplies, and finally shrink the whole thing down into my miniature Doomsday fortress. As for where to place it, I already had an idea. My apartment complex is on high ground in the suburbs. In my past life, the floodwaters only reached the 16th floor. I live on the 28th floor. I can totally hide the shrunken villa somewhere in my home, known only to me. With the plan set, I quickly made a list of supplies, grabbed my car keys, and rushed to the nearest warehouse store. I pushed my cart straight to my targets. First, I cleared out the military rations section. All the compressed biscuits on the shelves, and canned beef, were piled into my cart. It filled 3 whole carts. Next were the staples, cases of bottled water, 10 bags of rice, each weighing 44 pounds, and 5 boxes of vacuum-sealed mixed grains. Passing by the fresh produce section, I paused. Then I turned into the live poultry and seafood area. The apocalypse isn't a matter of a few days. I need to establish a sustainable food chain. I took some chicks, ducklings, and scooped up about half a pound of small crucian carp. Then, the tools section. Hand crank flashlights, batteries, a water purifier, miniature cameras. I picked them out precisely, not missing a single item. At the pharmacy counter, I cleared out the wound disinfectants, antibiotics, painkillers, and multivitamins. In the apocalypse, these are more precious than gold. Several carts of supplies, piled up like a small mountain at the checkout. People around stared in shock. I paid without batting an eye, loaded up the car, and sped back to the rented villa. After hauling all those supplies back to the rented villa, I went to a furniture warehouse store. I picked out a full set of furniture for my future new home. As for my sister, no need to guess. She's definitely fawning over her brother Lou, using that flashy enlargement ability of hers to try and please him. She probably really thinks she can be a savior, but she doesn't realize that in others' eyes, she's already a piece of prime meat, and I will take all my resources and vanish completely from their sight. It was already dark when I got home. A cheerful humming came from my sister's room. Seems she's in a good mood. That's perfect. Saves her from bothering me. I locked my bedroom door and started organizing. I poured all the shrunken supplies from my bag onto the floor and carefully packed them into a prepared metal box. My sister's voice came from outside the door. Brother Lou, when the heavy rain comes, we won't have to be afraid of anything. My ability can create everything we need. I put on my headphones to block out the noise outside. I called the foreman. He promised to finish the work by tomorrow afternoon. Once the villa is modified, I can go shrink it and bring it back. On the third day, the heavy rain arrived as expected. I knew it. The apocalypse had finally begun. Guwon rushed out of her room, her face lit up with near-frenzied excitement. It's raining. It really is. I have endless food. Brother Lou and his family will be here any minute. I'm going to turn this place into an ark and take everyone in. The doorbell rang. She practically bounced over to open it. Lu Chen and his parents stood at the door, their faces pale. His father, Lu Guoqiang, had his lips pressed tight, while his mother, Wang Guifan, kept wringing her hands, her eyes darting around the room. Wan, this rain is terrifying. You said you have. Auntie, Brother Lou, come in, quick. Don't worry, with me here, you won't go hungry. She held a bag of chips in her palm, and in front of the wide-eyed Lu family, caused it to suddenly swell into a giant bundle that needed to be hugged. Then she proudly pointed to the corner, at the several crates of already enlarged loot. The Lu family's eyes immediately lit up, their faces filled with relief. Lu Chen immediately took his sister's hand. Wan, thank you so much. Brother Lou, you don't need to say that between us. Wang Guifan immediately put on a different face. She sidled up affectionately, and grabbed Gu Wan's other arm. Oh, my dear Wan, Auntie always knew you were blessed, and so capable. The meanness and disdain on her face vanished without a trace, leaving only affection and admiration. Gu Wan was surrounded by them. She looked at Lu Chen. Lu Chen was gazing back at her tenderly, and gently patted the back of her hand. Try making these bottles of water bigger too. Just dry food isn't enough. Wang Guifan pointed to a few bottles of dwindling mineral water in the corner. Lu Chen chimed in softly. Yes, Wan, just a little more effort. Gu Wan looked at Lu Chen and agreed to his hopeful gaze. She raised her hand again. The water bottles began to slowly expand. The Lu family watched intently as the bottles grew larger, their smiles growing brighter, as if they could already see a future free from want. I was in my own room, quietly listening to the conversation outside. Lu Chen's parents never thought much of my sister. I've heard his mother more than once, complaining at the top of her lungs in the hallway. That girl across the hall is always sneaking into my son's room. It's just not proper. A neighbor teased. Your son is a lucky man. Wang Guifan's tone instantly turned sharp. Lucky, if it weren't for the fact she spends money on my son, I'd have made them cut ties long ago. But my sister remained oblivious, still visiting Lu Chen's house frequently. While they were still exchanging pleasantries in the living room, I quietly slipped out the side door. The street before the storm was eerily empty. I drove to that fully renovated villa, and did one final check of the reinforced walls, the hidden water storage system, and the miniature generator. Everything was ready. Standing in the center of the villa, I opened my palm. A soft glow began to flow out, gently enveloping the entire structure. A few seconds later, an exquisitely detailed, perfectly scaled miniature villa lay quietly in the palm of my hand. Carefully placing the miniature villa into a specially made protective case, I immediately returned home, leaving a note on the table, saying I was away on business and would be back in a week. Then, using a phone app, I lightly touched the sensor area on the wardrobe. With a low, mechanical sliding sound, on the wardrobe's inner wall, a perfectly concealed hidden door silently opened. This mechanism was left over from the renovation. Back then, I thought a custom wardrobe was too expensive, so the foreman suggested, why not turn this recess into a locked storage space, cheap and hidden. Now, this forgotten storage space had become my only refuge for the apocalypse. I carried the box with the miniature villa, along with all the previously shrunken supplies and tools, making trip after trip inside. Finally, I stepped back into the wardrobe, and whispered to myself before the hidden door closed. Shrink. A strange feeling of weightlessness and contraction instantly engulfed me. After the rapid sensation of shrinking, I turned around. The miniature villa stood right before my eyes. From my current size, it looked incredibly grand, like a palace. I took a deep breath and pushed the door open. The sight inside made me hold my breath instantly. I stood there, frozen. It took me a few seconds to process what I was seeing. Living room, kitchen, bedroom, everything was here. As far as the eye could see, were stacks of supply crates covering almost an entire wall. They were neatly arranged into sturdy rows. Cardboard boxes of hardtack, a metal wall of canned goods, sealed bags of grain. Through the glass door on the other side, I could also see that already prepared soil in the planting area, and the miniature fence, enclosing the livestock corner. Everything was going according to plan. No time to waste. I picked up the tiny shovel leaning against the wall, and headed out to that patch of soil. I bent down, and placed the vegetable seeds one by one into the fresh soil, then gently covered them with fine dirt. I turned and scattered a handful of rice, for the chirping, hungry chicks and ducklings in the warm zone. After finishing that, I went into the kitchen. Using that mini juicer, I made myself an apple smoothie. I just sat down on the couch to enjoy it, when a multi-legged shadow suddenly swept past the window. A spider. In my current microscopic view, it looked as huge as a truck. It began tentatively using its forelimbs to scrape at my outer wall. Although the house was shrunken, it was still sturdy. But letting it keep this up wasn't a long-term solution. I had to deal with it, but to shrink a living thing, I had to touch the target. I quickly grabbed a piece of candy, and restored it to its normal size. I rolled it out through the door crack. The spider was attracted, its long legs stirring up the fine sand in the yard. When one of its forelimbs reached inside the door, I slammed the door shut, trapping it. The moment my fingertip touched its carapace, I whispered, "Shrink." A flash of light. It shrank to the size of a sesame seed, and dropped to the ground. I lifted my foot and gave it a gentle crush, cleaning up the mess. A low, thunderous rumble faintly reached me. I immediately pulled out my phone, and opened a video clip that could still load. On the screen, murky floodwaters carrying debris, smashed through the rolling shutters of street-side shops. Several cars, like toys, floated down the main road. In the distance, the outer wall tiles of tall buildings were peeling off in sheets, crashing into the churning water below. The rain shows no sign of letting up. Instead, it's as if the sky has sprung a leak, pouring down endlessly. The entire city has long been swallowed, leaving only an endless expanse of murky, still rising water. Right at that moment, faint sounds of an argument drifted in from outside. I immediately thought of that tiny camera. With a swipe of my finger, I switched the feed to my sister's living room. On the surveillance feed, Lu Chen was talking to my sister. Wan, the water's already reached the second floor. My cousin Zhao Dagong and his family are right downstairs. Let them come up. My sister's voice was soft. We really don't have much food left. You have a superpower. Just enlarge it. We can't just let them die, can we? My sister's face was noticeably pale. Her lips were chapped. That's the look of someone whose superpower is depleted. Lu Chen softened his voice, coaxing her. Wan, please help. My sister lowered her eyes and nodded. The door opened, and a flurry of footsteps rushed in. A gruff voice immediately shouted, "Make that box of crackers bigger." The kids crying from hunger. My sister slowly raised her hand, a faint light flickering at her fingertips. The box slowly grew larger. She swayed, steadying herself against the wall. No one paid her any attention. A boy of about 5 or 6 was handed half a cracker by Zhao Dagong. He immediately started wolfing it down, eating and, at the same time, looking at Gu Wan with tear-filled eyes. He mumbled, "Thank you, sis." Lu Chen's mother picked up a cracker and frowned. "Why is it just crackers? Get something with more flavor tomorrow." I sneered and turned off the screen. In my past life, I protected her so fiercely. Yet in the end, she pushed me into the floodwaters. This time, she snatched the enlargement superpower, thinking she could be Lu Chen's savior. She never considered that human greed is never satisfied. It's only been a few days, and the family she's trying to please has already turned into vampires with their hands out. Half an hour later, after my shower, as I dried my hair, I caught a glimpse in the mirror of something strange on my back. I turned and took a picture with my phone. A faint blue, glowing bar like a progress meter had somehow imprinted itself on my skin. What is this? A mark of superpower awakening? Boom! A deafening roar erupted from the building, followed by earth-shattering tremors. The neighbors' cries and shouts exploded. The sound of the torrential rain outside instantly became as violent as a tsunami. A chill ran through me. No, the timing is wrong. The flood's impact came a full half-day early. The apocalypse has arrived ahead of schedule. The flood arrived half a day earlier than I remembered. The light mark on my back was faintly burning, as if scorched by something. But now wasn't the time to investigate. I turned my phone's surveillance feed to maximum volume, listening intently to the commotion in the living room. In the living room, Gu Wan, her face deathly pale, was leaning against the shoe cabinet. The violent shaking moments ago had nearly made her fall. Wang Guifan clutched her son's arm tightly, her voice trembling. She said, Wan, this building won't collapse, will it? Gu Wan forced a smile, but her voice shook a little. It's fine, Auntie. Our building is very sturdy. Besides, my power can create more food. We'll definitely get through this. Before she could finish, the burly Zhao Dagong interrupted gruffly. Perfect timing then. Hurry up and make a few more big boxes of instant noodles. These soda crackers are tasteless. The kid doesn't like them either. The boy beside him immediately started crying with a pout. Dad, I'm hungry. This isn't enough. The look he gave Gu-won shifted from expectation to disappointment. Gu-won's fingertips lifted slightly, but that familiar faint light only flickered for an instant, before dimming. Cold sweat beaded on her temples. Her voice grew weak. I might need to rest for a few minutes. My power is a bit. Zhao Dagong's voice rose. Pointing at her, he said, it's chaos out there. The water's about to flood in. Wait a few minutes. Wait to die. Lu Chen crouched down then. He took Gu-won's cold hand. His voice was very low. His tone was gentle, almost hypnotic. His fingertips gently stroked the back of her hand. Wan, just hold on a little longer. Once this passes, and the flood recedes, we'll get married. Okay, I'll marry you. Gu-won jerked her head up. In her previously unfocused eyes, a glimmer of light suddenly sparked. Married. Brother Lu was going to marry her. She looked at Lu Chen's gentle, focused gaze. That nearly exhausted strength seemed to squeeze out one last bit. She clenched her teeth and raised her trembling hand again. The faint light glowed, but it was much dimmer than before. The box of instant noodles slowly, laboriously expanded. In the end, it only grew to half its intended size, before stopping. That's it. Zhao Dagong grumbled discontentedly. Gu-won slumped to the floor, gasping for air, but her eyes were startlingly bright, staring fixedly at Lu Chen, as if clutching her last lifeline. Lu Chen smiled at her, patted the back of her hand, then got up and walked towards the enlarged box of noodles. I sneered silently. In my past life, you traded my life for his. In this life, you trade your life for empty promises. Fair. The light mark on my back suddenly burned fiercely. That blue progress bar had somehow filled nearly halfway, its edges glowing. Then, the miniature villa I was in began shrinking on its own. The light mark was controlling it. I slowly let go of the wall. The shrinking of the miniature villa has completely stopped. It stabilized at 2/3 of its original size. The light mark on my back was still burning hot, but the glow from that blue progress bar was gradually fading. I took note of this change. The light mark doesn't just show some kind of progress. It seems it can also, under specific conditions, actively influence my ability, even directly control the shrunken objects. This isn't the shrinking I'm familiar with, but right now, I have something more important to focus on. I switched the surveillance feed back to my sister's living room. On the screen, Gu-won could no longer stand. She was curled up in a corner of the sofa. Her face was ashen. Her lips were so dry they were cracking and bleeding. Lu Chen's family was gathered around the coffee table. They were sharing that half box of barely enlarged instant noodles. Wang Guifan held the last half piece of noodle cake. She turned to look at her. Wan, try again. Make a few more bottles of that mineral water bigger. Eating just dry food makes us choke. Gu-won's eyelashes fluttered. Her fingers twitched, but she didn't even have the strength to lift them. She opened her mouth. I really can't do it anymore. Wang Guifan's brow immediately furrowed. Her voice turned sharp. Why can't you do it now? You could enlarge the noodles just a moment ago. Are you holding back? Don't want to help us? Mom, don't say that. Lu Chen tugged at his mother's sleeve, but his tone held no real reproach. He walked over to Gu-won and crouched down. He took her hand. Wan, try one more time. Just one bottle. Just one. Gu-won looked at him, her eyes reddening. She mustered all her strength to lift a finger. Zhao Dagong's son watched. Gu-won collapsed on the floor. Then he looked at the adults, only concerned with eating. Tears fell. Plop, plop. Sister is a liar. A faint light flickered, then it went out completely. Her head lolled to the side as she passed out. TCH, useless. Wang Guifan curled her lip. Lu Chen patted Gu-won's cheek. Seeing no response, he withdrew his hand. He turned back to continue eating his noodles. Back on my end of the surveillance, I decided it was time to offer a little charity. I took out a single piece of milk candy, shrunk to the size of a grain of rice. I restored it to its normal size. Then, I manipulated the surveillance cameras, attached small robotic arm. This was a micro device I had, specially chosen to install. I quietly pushed this piece of candy through the vent, into my sister's living room. It rolled across the floor, and stopped by Gu-won's hand. A few minutes later, Gu-won woke up. She stared blankly at the ceiling. Then, her gaze fell on the piece of milk candy that had appeared out of nowhere. She was stunned for a full 5 seconds. With trembling hands, she picked up the candy. She unwrapped it and put it in her mouth. She closed her eyes. A tear mixed with the grime on her face and fell. I turned off the surveillance feed. The light mark on my back was faintly warm again. I walk over to my fully equipped, tiny kitchen. Outside the window, a world drowning storm and flood rage. Inside, there's a world that belongs only to me, shrunk down but perfectly intact. The fridge is packed with all kinds of ingredients, stored in their miniaturized forms. I take out fatty beef rolls, shrimp paste, mushrooms, and vibrant green vegetables. There's even a small, individually wrapped block of spicy hot pot base on the miniature induction cooker. The red broth in the small pot starts to bubble and boil. The spicy, savory steam rises. I sit down to enjoy this. Solitary hot pot meal in the apocalypse. The beef is tender, the shrimp paste delightfully bouncy. I pick up my phone and adjust the angle, framing the lavish spread of the spicy hot pot. Within the shot, the photo is taken. I send the photo to my sister. My sister's phone, carelessly tossed in the corner of the sofa, starts vibrating. Gu-won fumbles for her phone in a daze. When she sees the photo on the screen, and that glaring smiley face, she freezes, as if struck by lightning. Her mouth hangs open, eyes wide with shock. Lu Chen notices something's wrong and leans in. The next second, he gasps sharply. He snatches the phone. Hot pot, is this your sister? She's alive. How does she have all this stuff? Wang Guifan also squeezes in to look and shrieks. It really is her. Where is she? Ask her. Quick, tell her to bring us food right now. She has so much. Can she even finish it all by herself? Lu Chen's fingers tremble as he starts frantically calling my number. My phone, next to the hot pot, lights up silently and then goes dark. Lu Chen's name flashes repeatedly on the screen. I glance at it, letting it ring until it cuts off. Immediately after, my WeChat explodes with messages, one after another. Sis, is that you? Where are you? Sis, tell me where you are. Quick. We're starving. Ning Ning, you have so much food. Share some with us. You can't just leave us to die. Please, sis, for old time's sake, save us. We just need a little, just a tiny bit. Are you still mad at Wan Wan? I'll make her apologize to you. Just tell us where you are. The screen is still flooded with messages. I put my phone on silent, and tossed it onto the couch. The Lu family must be interrogating my sister right now, like a pack of starving hyenas. Sure enough, on the surveillance feed, Lu Chen is shaking Gu Wan by the shoulders. Your sister is definitely in this building. That candy, and the hot pot photo. She's nearby, watching us. Gu Wan's eyes go unfocused from the shaking, but she mumbles in reply. Right. Sister must be here. She suddenly lifts her head. I remember now. In sister's room, there's a hidden compartment behind the wardrobe. A gleam flashes in Lu Chen's eyes. They immediately rush toward my bedroom. Zhao Dagang shoves Gu Wan aside, who was blocking the way, and reaches for the door handle. It's empty. She's messing with us. Zhao Dagang kicks the wall, but Gu Wan crouches down, and runs her trembling hand over the inside of the hidden door. A very faint scratch mark. I made that when I was moving the miniature villa. By accident. She was here. She really was. Her eyes glaze over. She starts frantically searching every corner of the room. Sister, come out. I know you're here. The next moment, she freezes. She slowly looks up, toward the corner where the top of the wardrobe meets the ceiling. There's a very short piece of gray thread, almost blending in with the dust. Gu Wan staggers to her feet, pushing Lu Chen away as he tries to pull her back. She drags a chair over and climbs onto it, reaching for that thread. Just as her fingertips are about to touch it, a huge crash echoes from downstairs, followed by the sound of shattering glass. The whole floor shakes. The Lu family ducks and covers in fear. Gu Wan falls off the chair, but scrambles back up immediately, her eyes still locked on that thread atop the wardrobe. Lu Chen yanks her hard, pulling her away. Something's wrong downstairs. Let's go. Gu Wan is dragged toward the door. Suddenly, her fingertips tingle. A warmth she hasn't felt in a long time flows from her chest to her fingers. She stops dead in her tracks. Her long dulled fingertips faintly glow with a weak, dim light. Her powers, they're back. A white light flickered at Gu Wan's fingertips. It lasted only a moment before fading, but Lu Chen was already grabbing her hand in ecstasy. Your power is back. Quick, make some food first. A few minutes later, several cans swelled up in the middle of the living room. Lu Chen's family pounced on them, tearing at the packaging. Gu Wan leaned weakly against the wall, but her gaze was fixed in the direction of my room. I switched the surveillance feed. Sure enough, after they ate their fill, they started banging on doors and searching apartment by apartment. The whole building had long lost power. In the stark white light of the emergency lamps, they looked like a pack of hungry ghosts. It's time. I controlled a robotic arm to push a small pile of cookie crumbs through a vent, letting them scatter along the fire escape leading to the rooftop. There are crumbs here. Zhao Dagang yelled in the 16th floor stairwell. Several of them immediately charged upward. Their footsteps echoed in the empty hallway. The door to the rooftop water tank room was kicked open. A flashlight beam swept across dust-covered pumps and pipes, finally settling on the rusted tank lid. I had smeared a bit of grease there earlier. It glinted faintly in the light. She must be hiding inside the tank. Lu Chen's voice was distorted with excitement. They started frantically prying at the lid. On the surveillance feed, Gu Wan remained standing still. She lowered her head and opened her palm. That faint white light glowed again. This time, it lasted 3 seconds. She slowly raised her head and looked toward the camera. Her lips moved silently. I could make out the shape of the words. Sis. Lu Chen whirls around. He meets Gu Wan's gaze, silently calling out toward the camera. His pupils contract. He strides back to stand before Gu Wan, grabbing her wrist. What are you looking at? Do you know where she is? The search of the rooftop yields nothing. Inside the pried open water tank, only rusty water and dead rats. Zhao Dagang kicks the water pipe hard. In the empty tank room, it echoes with a piercing sound. We've been tricked again. Back on the 28th floor, the oppressive silence finally shatters. Wang Guifen's sharp accusations and Zhao Dagang's crude curses blend together. Gu Wan huddles in the corner, trying to explain. I really don't know where my sister is. Lu Chen backhands her across the face. You don't know. Without your ability, you're useless. If we can't find your sister, what use are you to us? Gu Wan falls to the ground. Her cheek burns with pain. Her ears are ringing. Just as Lu Chen grabs her collar to drag her up, a small packet of hardtack, in a clear plastic bag, slides out of the vent. It lands at her feet. The packaging is intact. The production date is clear. It's a common military type from before the apocalypse. The arguing stops abruptly. Everyone stares intently at the packet of biscuits that appeared out of thin air. Gu Wan suddenly erupts with surprising strength. She snatches the biscuits and clutches them to her chest. She looks up, tear stains still on her face. Her voice trembles with excitement. It's my sister. She saw me. She's testing me. She gave me a clue. What do you mean? Lu Chen looks at her suspiciously. My ability's recovery is unstable. My sister must be controlling it. Gu Wan speaks rapidly. She gave me candy. She gave me biscuits. She's reminding me. As long as we find her, my ability will fully recover. Then we can have anything we want. The suspicion in Lu Chen's eyes is gradually replaced by greed. He looks at the oddly appearing biscuits, then at Gu Wan's fervent expression. His voice returns to its usual softness. Let's find your sister together. Lu Chen and his family embarked on a new round of searching. Meanwhile, in my miniature villa, morning light streamed through the tiny window, casting warm patches of light on the floor. I put on my gardening gloves and picked up a small trowel, and stepped into the outdoor planting area. Lettuce leaves unfurled with a fresh, tender green. Small tomatoes were already bearing green fruit. Carefully, I used my fingertips to pick a few of the outermost leaves. I placed them in a wicker basket. Then I turned and went to the livestock corner. In the warm straw nest, 2 eggs lay quietly. I brought the eggs and vegetables back to the kitchen. Using a miniature induction cooker, I stir-fried a plate of light vegetables. Then I made a bowl of egg drop soup. As I sat at the dining table enjoying breakfast, the relentless sound of heavy rain continued outside the window. But inside, there was only the warm aroma of food. After the meal, I checked my supplies. I noticed a shallow mark on my arm from earlier. When I was moving things, I opened the fully functional miniature first aid kit, disinfected it with an iodine swab, and put on a band-aid. The surveillance screen was lit up. In the footage, Gu Wan looked even worse than yesterday. She was being half supported, half dragged by Lu Chen, as they rummaged through one empty house after another, in the long-deserted neighborhood. Occasionally, she raised her hand. A faint white light flickered at her fingertips, enlarging a half-pack of damp biscuits found in a corner. Zhao Dagang immediately snatched them, complaining, "That's all there is." I picked up a cup of hot latte made with my miniature coffee machine. I took a sip. In my previous life, at this time, my sister and I had already been starving for 2 days. We could only survive by licking. The water droplets condensed on the pipes. She was curled up in a corner, crying. I shoved the last half of a biscuit into her hand. The burning hunger in my stomach lasted the entire night. But now, my fridge is well stocked with food. The planting area is thriving. The light scar on my back lies dormant, no longer burning. I switched to another surveillance feed. I watched as Gu Wan once again staggered and leaned against a wall, her powers depleted. Lu Chen didn't help her up, just urged her. Hurry, let's go to the next house. The rain continues to pour outside, but inside the miniature villa, it's a constant temperature and humidity. The only sound comes from the planting area, the faint pecking of chicks. The moment I turn on the surveillance screen, I can't help but raise an eyebrow slightly. On the screen, Lu Chen's living room is packed with 7 or 8 people. They're all neighbors from upstairs and downstairs. Hunger has left them pale and gaunt. Lu Chen stands in the middle, standing tall, speaking with unprecedented confidence. Don't worry. Since you've come to my place, no one will go hungry. He turns sideways, pointing at Gu Wan curled up in the corner of the sofa. Wan's ability. You all know about it. She can make food bigger. The crowd stirs. All eyes turn to Gu Wan. Lu Chen clears his throat, raising his voice. But using her ability has limits. Wan's body can't handle too much. He pauses, his gaze sweeping over the crowd. Starting today, we'll trade by portion. If anyone has usable items left, medicine, batteries, clean water, even some information, you can bring it. Based on its value, Wan will enlarge a corresponding amount of food for you. The crowd falls silent for a moment, then erupts into heated discussion. Isn't this profiteering? An old man says with a trembling voice. Zhao Dagang immediately steps forward. He says gruffly, "What do you mean, profiteering? You think food just falls from the sky? If you think it's too expensive, don't come." The old man falls silent. The others look at each other. In this apocalypse, hunger quickly overcomes hesitation. A middle-aged woman steps forward first. She pulls out half a blister pack of dwindling antibiotics from her coat. "Will this do? My son has a fever. I just want something to eat." Lu Chen takes it, examines it carefully, and nods. "Okay, Wan, make 2 packs of crackers bigger for her." Gu Wan looks up, slowly extends her hand. 2 packs of compressed biscuits, under everyone's watchful eyes, slowly expanded back to their normal size. A woman grabbed them tightly, repeatedly thanking him, almost on the verge of tears. After the first one, came the second, then the third. A box of damp matches, a few dead batteries, a rust-stained fruit knife, all sorts of things that could be called junk, were handed to Lu Chen, and Gu Wan was like a machine that had been given an input command, numbly raising her hand to release a faint light, enlarging those food scraps. Each time the white light faded, her face grew a shade paler, her body trembled almost imperceptibly. Lu Chen stood with his hands behind his back, in the center of the living room, beaming with pride. He weighed a rusty pair of pliers in his hand, and to a woman holding a child, he held up 2 fingers, 2 bottles of clean water for 1 biscuit. Take it or leave it. Wang Guifan sat upright on the only intact sofa, her back stiff and straight. Meanwhile, Lu Guoqiang leisurely walked over to the corner, and plopped himself down, on top of those boxes of supplies, that Gu Wan had exhausted herself to enlarge. The cardboard boxes sagged slightly under his weight. He leaned his back against another stack of boxes, one leg bent, arm resting on his knee, looking down at the crowd of sallow-faced, emaciated neighbors below. He spoke, his voice not loud. Old Manly, those dead batteries of yours are only worth this much. He casually waved a hand at Lu Chen. Give him half a biscuit. No, break off a small corner. His tone was like an emperor bestowing an insignificant reward. The small living room had become a post-apocalyptic trading floor. I watched for a while, then muted the sound. Gu Wan collapsed again after another overexertion. Lu Chen just casually shoved her deeper into the sofa. I got up and walked to the storage room. The supplies were neatly stacked and orderly. I took inventory. 40 cases of compressed biscuits left, 30 cases of canned goods, 2 bags each of rice and mixed grains, plenty of bottled water. The vegetables in the growing area were thriving. I walked over to the corner, lifted a removable floor panel. Below it was an even more concealed space. Inside the hidden compartment are the real goodies. Beef jerky in sealed packaging, powdered milk, and a batch of unopened high-energy military rations. All of this is what I deliberately separated, shrunk, and hid earlier. In the apocalypse, revealing everything you have is the dumbest move. From my hidden stash, I take out a small piece of dark chocolate, and restore it to size. My gaze returns to the surveillance screen. Business seems to be booming even more. Lu Chen has even started taking orders. Old 7. That bucket of dirty water from your place won't do. It has to be drinkable. Bring 3 full bottles of water tomorrow, and I'll get you a bigger bag of flour. Ms. Wang, doesn't your family have an old radio that still works? That's worth a full meal. After a noisy round of bartering, the crowd gradually disperses. Wang Guifan is counting the half bottle of painkillers she got in trade. Zhao Dagong is munching on the crackers he just traded for. It's quiet for a few minutes. Suddenly, Gu Wan moves. She turns her head very slowly. Her gaze gradually shifts toward the ceiling light. She stares at it for a full 10 seconds. Then she abruptly sits up straight. Her voice is hoarse but sharp. Lu Chen. Lu Chen frowns. What now? Her finger points stiffly, directly at the lampshade. There, something's flashing. It's a camera. She's watching us. The chocolate in my hand silently drops onto the table. She found it. Zhao Dagong's son says with hatred. What good is watching? She won't give us any food. On the surveillance feed, Lu Chen squints, following the direction she's pointing. He looks for 2 seconds. His expression suddenly changes. He stands up abruptly. The chair scrapes against the floor with a screech. The image begins to shake violently. Lu Chen and Zhao Dagong jump up. He grabs a clothes-drying pole and starts poking at the light. Wang Guifan screams and dodges, poking wildly. The image spins crazily. Finally, a sizzling sound. The screen goes completely black. I turn off the surveillance feed. I stand up. I listen to the faint cursing coming from outside the door, and the sounds of things being moved. It lasts for nearly an hour, before gradually quieting down. They're tired, and they've let their guard down. They remove the camera, thinking they're safe now. I wait until late at night. The whole building is deathly quiet. Only the floodwaters, slapping against the lower floors with a mournful sound, restore. A faint light sweeps past. I return to my normal size. I gently push open the wardrobe door. The living room is pitch black. No light seeps from under the opposite door. They must all be asleep. Things are piled in the corner. 3 bulging bags of flour, 2 boxes of canned goods, 5 buckets of water, and half a box of crackers. All inventory from today's business. I crouch down. My hand hovers over the supplies. A stream of light flows from my palm, enveloping everything. A faint flash of light. The corner is empty. I use tweezers to pick up a few specks of dust from the floor, and put them into a special metal box. I turn and head back to the bedroom. Close the wardrobe properly. Place the box next to the miniature villa. Their lifeline is now my emergency rations. The sky was just beginning to lighten, when screams erupted from Lu Chen's home. Where is it? Where's the flour? Wang Guifan's voice was so shrill it could crack glass. Lu Chen and Zhao Dagong rushed barefoot into the living room, staring at the empty corner. Their eyes nearly popped out of their heads. It was all piled right here last night. 3 bags of flour, 2 crates of canned goods, 5 jugs of water, and half a box of biscuits. That was their entire stake. Now, it's all gone. Zhao Dagang kicked the wall hard. What the hell? The door was locked tight last night. Lu Chen's face was ashen. He suddenly turned his head, looking at Gu Wan on the sofa. Gu Wan was startled awake by the commotion. She stared blankly at the empty corner, then at Lu Chen's contorted face. Her voice was hoarse. My sister took them. Zhao Dagang roared. How did she get in? Walk through walls. She didn't need to come in. Gu Wan slowly sat up. Her bony finger pointed toward my room. She's right there, always watching. Taking down the cameras didn't help. Her taking our things is her way of telling us she's here, and she knows everything. Dead silence filled the living room. Wang Guifan began to tremble. What do we do now? Lu Chen's chest heaved violently. He forced the words out through gritted teeth. Search every inch. We'll dig 3 feet down if we have to, but we'll find her. This time, the search became frantic yet methodical. They stopped banging on neighbors' doors, and focused all their attention on the house. Furniture was roughly shoved aside. Floorboards were repeatedly struck with crowbars. Walls were pressed against ears, listening intently. Gu Wan followed behind Lu Chen. Her eyes scanned every corner. She even got down on the ground, and used her fingers to pick at the gaps between the floor tiles. She suddenly stopped at the door to my bedroom. Lu Chen crouched down, and shone a flashlight. His gaze sharpened. Break it open. Zhao Dagang swung an axe. The door lock shattered. They flooded into my bedroom, finally stopping in front of the built-in wardrobe. Lu Chen knocked on the wardrobe. It sounded hollow. He knocked on the wall beside it. It sounded solid. It's different. Gu Wan stepped forward, her hand trembling. She reached out, and ran it over the seam where the wardrobe met the wall. Her breath caught. It's hollow behind here. The last trace of hesitation vanished from Lu Chen's eyes, replaced by pure madness and greed. Smash it. Axes, iron rods, every heavy object they could find, was hurled at the wardrobe door. The deafening noise echoed in the enclosed bedroom. Dust rained down. The door groaned and warped under the assault. A crack appeared. I opened my eyes on the bed inside the miniature villa. The light marks on my back felt warm. The thunderous noise pierced through the walls, through the shrunken barrier, and slammed directly into my eardrums. The entire miniature villa trembled slightly. Plaster dust fell like rain. I stood in the center of the villa's living room, looking up at the ceiling, which swayed slightly from the impacts outside. My palms were sweating. A crack appeared on the thick door panel. The wardrobe door finally gave way, and burst inward, leaving a huge gaping hole. Zhao Dagang was the first to lunge forward. He tore at the splintered wood with his hands. The beam from his flashlight shot eagerly into the dark cabinet. Empty, just a few old clothes hanging, and some empty storage boxes. Nothing else. No secret space like they imagined. No stockpile of supplies. And certainly not the sister they thought was hiding there. How is this possible? The frenzy on Lu Chen's face instantly froze, morphing into stunned disbelief. He shoved Zhao Dagang aside, and squeezed to the front himself. He leaned halfway into the cabinet. His hands frantically felt, and knocked against the shelves and back panel. All solid. It's hollow back here. I heard it, I swear, Gu Wan muttered. She pushed forward too. Her trembling hands felt the cabinet's back panel. The cold wood, the solid feel of it. No sign of any mechanism or hidden compartment. Zhao Dagang roared in frustration, and kicked the nearby wall. You heard wrong. Now we wrecked it for nothing. Where are the supplies? Where is she? Lu Chen pulled back abruptly. He saw the floor they'd pried up, now pitted and scarred. The walls covered in hammer marks, furniture knocked over. Everything was a mess. But the person they were looking for wasn't there, nor were there missing supplies. Search. Keep searching. There must be another mechanism. Lu Chen refused to give up. He ordered hoarsely. Wang Guifan slumped on the dusty floor, and began wailing. My flour, my canned goods. Who the hell stole them? Gu Wan stood before the shattered wardrobe, her head bowed. She looked at her own hands, covered in dust and wood splinters. My sister's face was expressionless, but her shoulders were trembling slightly. Inside the miniature villa, I turned off the live surveillance screen. The chaotic cries and wails from outside were completely shut out. The glowing scar on my back had cooled. It had settled into a quiet, blue mark, about 70% filled. The loud banging on the door earlier seemed to have agitated it, but now it's dormant again. I walked into the bathroom. A bathroom scaled down to a realistic size, but fully functional. It even had a miniature hot spring pool, made from special waterproof materials, large enough to fit my current size. The water was rainwater I'd purified, through a filtration system, then treated with a mineral pack. It was clear and warm, with steam gently rising. I took off my clothes, and stepped into the pool. The perfect warmth enveloped me instantly. It relaxed the muscles that had been tense from the stress, and chased away the chill in my heart. I leaned against the side, closed my eyes, and soaked for about 20 minutes. I felt completely refreshed. I got out, dried off, and changed into comfortable silk loungewear. Time to eat. I went into the kitchen, and opened the fridge, also miniaturized, but with its cooling fully intact. In the crisper, various shrunken ingredients were neatly arranged. I took out a box of salmon sashimi. I bought this before the apocalypse, at a high-end Japanese restaurant. While I could still go outside, I made a special trip for it, and immediately shrank it for preservation. There were also shrunken sweet shrimp, scallops, and sea urchin. I restored them all to a normal size suitable for me to eat. In the miniature villa's dining room, with its soft, natural light, I sat in a comfortable chair, and leisurely enjoyed this seafood feast in the midst of the apocalypse. The salmon belly melted in my mouth, rich and flavorful. I brewed myself a cup of similarly shrunken geisha coffee. Time to see what happens next with them. I picked up a tablet. It was specially made to connect to the second hidden camera I had installed earlier in the living room, which had gone undetected. This camera was even smaller, hidden in a cracked decoration on the ceiling molding that was extremely inconspicuous. Its power came from a tiny battery I had secretly installed, which could last a long time. I activated it and turned on the one-way video transmission function. My image would appear directly on that old LCD TV in Lu Chen's home, the one placed against the wall, long since powered off, but whose screen would occasionally flicker from a weak-induced current. The living room in Lu Chen's home was a mess, with a heavy, oppressive atmosphere. The exhaustion from the fruitless search, and the blow of losing supplies, left everyone slumped over. Lu Chen was smoking with his head down, the last few cigarettes left from before the apocalypse. Wang Guifan was still sobbing quietly. Zhao Dagong was cursing under his breath as he cleaned up the mess they had made themselves. Gu Wan was curled up in the farthest corner of the sofa, hugging her knees, staring blankly at the ground. Suddenly, the black screen of the TV crackled to life with static. Then the image jumped sharply, and my face appeared, clear, calm, even with a hint of leisurely rosiness. In the background was a corner of my miniature villa's living room, clean, warm, with fresh flowers arranged. The four people in the living room all froze. The cigarette fell from Lu Chen's mouth. Wang Guifan's sobs caught in her throat. The broken jar Zhao Dagong had picked up clattered to the floor. Gu Wan jerked her head up, her eyes fixed intently on the screen, facing the camera. I picked up the cup of steaming hot coffee beside me, then gave a perfectly measured smile, as if greeting an old friend. My voice came through the TV's worn-out speaker. Good evening. Looks like you've been busy all day. Must be tired. Lu Chen was the first to react. Like a cat with its tail stepped on, he shot up, lunged in front of the TV, his finger almost poking through the screen. Where are you? What did you do with our stuff? Come out. You get out here. I put down my coffee cup, tilted my head slightly, and asked in a puzzled tone. Then it dawned on me. Stuff? Oh, you mean the flour and canned goods in the corner? I thought they looked unsafe just sitting out there, so I'm holding on to them for you. No need to thank me. That's ours. Zhao Dagong rushed over too, his face flushed red as he roared. I smiled. There was no warmth in it. You used my sister's ability to amplify those leftover scraps that belonged to the whole building. To get them, Gu Wan trembled violently. Lu Chen's chest heaved. He forced down his rage, forcing out an expression uglier than crying. Sis Ningning, we're family. What's the point? Look, Wan Wan knows she was wrong. We messed up before. Just tell us where you are. We'll come get you. We'll share the good times and face the bad together. Okay, I acted like I'd heard a funny joke. Face the bad together. The bad. Hasn't that all been on you? You seem to enjoy using my sister's ability quite a bit. My gaze fell on Gu Wan. She instinctively shrank back. I picked up a plate of salmon sashimi from the dining table, still half-eaten. I made sure to show it off to the camera. Its tempting color and texture. Seems my good fortune isn't quite enough to share. Just had some seafood. Feeling a bit heavy. Talk later. Lu Chen panicked. Wait, don't hang up. Tell us where you are. Name your terms. We'll agree to anything. We have other food. I cut him off, in a flat tone. A sister who's been bled dry, and a pile of other people's junk. Lu Chen's face turned as dark as a pot bottom, as if suddenly remembering something. I pointed to the comfortable surroundings behind me. Forgot to share with you guys. I just took a hot spring bath. The water temperature was just right. In the apocalypse, it's important to keep your mind and body happy, don't you think? After saying that, I cleanly cut off the video feed. The TV screen instantly went pitch black again, reflecting the living room, and four twisted, desperate, and utterly furious faces. A few seconds later, Lu Chen let out a hysterical roar, grabbed an empty bottle nearby, and hurled it hard at the TV screen. The screen cracked into a spiderweb pattern, completely destroyed. He paced around in the mess. Wang Guifan started wailing again. How can she be so heartless? Why doesn't she just die? Zhao Dagong was panting heavily, his eyes sweeping around viciously, finally landing on Gu Wan. It's all your fault. It's all because of you, you useless waste. Can't even find where your sister is. What good are you? Gu Wan endured all the malicious stares and curses, burying her head deep into her knees. Back in the miniature villa, I turned off the tablet, and walked to the window in a good mood, thinking that interacting like this once in a while is actually pretty fun. At least it makes them clearly realize the gap between us is now an insurmountable gap. However, right at that moment, a faint but persistent thumping sound faintly came from outside. It wasn't the violent crash of someone trying to break the door down, but a rhythmic knocking, careful, deliberate taps. Muffled voices were calling out, too. I immediately pulled up the feed from the tiny camera installed in my front door's peephole. On the screen, outside my closed security door, stood two people, a middle-aged man and woman. Their faces were gaunt, their clothes were dirty and torn, soaked through by the rain, shivering under the dim emergency lights. They were taking turns pounding on the door. Their voices were hoarse and desperate. Ning ning, ning ning, are you in there? Open the door. It's Mom and Dad. Wan Wan, Wan Wan, are you in there? Open up. Save us. They were my birth parents, in my past life, because they lived on a lower floor. We lost contact early in the apocalypse. I thought they were long gone. I never imagined they'd struggle all the way here. Judging by their state, they must have gone through hell to climb up to the 28th floor. My heart skipped a beat. The Liu family was instantly on alert. Liu Chen shot to his feet, signaling the others to be quiet. He crept to the door and looked through the peephole. When he saw who it was, his brow furrowed deeply. Who is it? Wang Guifan asked nervously. Gu Wan's parents. Liu Chen lowered his voice, his tone full of annoyance and impatience. Gu Wan jolted. Her head snapped up. She struggled to stand. It's Mom and Dad. They're alive. She was about to rush over and open the door. Stop! Liu Chen barked in a low voice. He grabbed her arm. The force was so strong it made her cry out. What are you doing? Those are my parents. Gu Wan was frantic. Liu Chen's eyes were venomous. I know they're your parents. Look at them. They've been starving for days. If we let them in now, what food do we have to share? We're barely surviving ourselves. Gu Wan's eyes welled up with tears. But they're my parents. Liu Chen, you promised to marry me. They're your in-laws. We can't just let them die. In-laws? Wang Guifan cut in sharply from the side. Her face showed undisguised malice and contempt. Now you're calling them in-laws? If you weren't still useful, do you think our Liu family would have anything to do with you? Look at the state you're in now. Dragging along two old, useless burdens. Forget about it. Zhao Dagang chimed in. We can't open the door. Once it's open, we won't be able to close it again. Who knows if they'll bring others with them later. Liu Chen gripped Gu Wan's arm tightly. His voice was hushed. Wan Wan, listen to me. We've finally managed to get to safety. We lost our supplies, but you still have your powers. We can still figure something out. But if we take your parents, we'll all die right away. Do you understand? He looked at Gu Wan's pale face. Softening his tone a little, he coaxed her. Later, when we're more settled, I'll go with you to find them, okay? But not now. It's really not possible now. Be good. For our future. For our marriage. Marriage. That empty promise again. Gu Wan looked at the man she had once been infatuated with. The man who had promised her a future. She saw in his eyes nothing but cold calculation. And then she heard her parents' voices outside the door, growing fainter and fainter. The color drained completely from her face. Her body swayed. Finally, she slumped her head in defeat and stopped struggling. She let Liu Chen drag her away from the door. Pounding and shouting at the door went on for a bit longer, then it gradually faded away, leaving only stifled, heartbreaking sobs. Finally, everything fell silent again. The Liu family breathed a sigh of relief. Gu Wan slumped in the corner, tears streaming down her face silently. Inside the miniature villa, I watched the whole scene, coldly through the camera feed. I watched my parents arrive full of hope, get turned away at the door, and leave in despair. I watched my dear sister choose silence and abandonment. In our past life, for Liu Chen, she could push me into the floodwaters. In this life, for Liu Chen, she can stand by and watch, leaving her own parents to die without a care. She hasn't improved one bit. I put down the tablet and stood up. The light mark on my back suddenly began to burn again without warning. This time, it was more searing than ever before. That blue progress bar began to climb upward, at a visible speed from over 70%, 75, 78, 80. The moment the bar stabilized, at 80%, a strange, massive stream of information suddenly flooded my mind. Host's will to survive confirmed as firm. Potential intervention intent detected. Regarding key causality node, parental survival. Conditions met. Miniature master system activating. Activation successful. Host, Gu Ning. Current ability, matter miniaturization, beginner. System function unlocked. Miniature space, primary. Can create one stable miniature space independent of reality. Current volume, 10 cubic meters. Expandable with mental growth. Can directly store non-living objects within. No need for continuous ability expenditure to maintain shrunken state. The massive information made me dizzy, but I was more shocked and ecstatic. This isn't just a simple ability evolution. This is an auxiliary system, a miniature space. This means I no longer need to struggle to maintain the state of all those shrunken items. I can just put them into a stable pocket dimension. I forced down my excitement and pulled my focus back to reality. There are more important things to deal with now. My parents are still out there. I take a deep breath. Restore. A faint light flashes. I return to my normal size, appearing before the hidden door of the bedroom wardrobe. The living room outside is pitch black and silent. I silently walk behind the main door. I check through the peephole once more. The hallway is empty. The emergency light flickers on and off. I carefully open the door. A wave of damp, musty air hits me. The hallway is eerily quiet, only the faint sound of dripping water in the distance. I listen intently. I catch a faint, muffled cough, coming from the direction of the upstairs fire escape. I clench my fists, now shrunken down. I move along the base of the wall, quickly and silently heading upward. At the turn of the fire escape leading to the roof, in a recess piled with discarded junk, I find them. They're huddled close together, leaning against the cold wall, covered with a tattered plastic sheet. They must have scavenged from somewhere. Father's eyes are closed, his face ashen, breathing weakly. Mother's eyes are open, staring vacantly ahead. Her tears have long since dried up. My nose stings sharply. I quickly scan the surroundings, confirming it's safe. I restore myself to a normal size they can recognize. Mom, Dad, I whisper. Father opens his eyes. Mother turns her head in shock, as they make out my face. In the dim light, Mother claps a hand over her mouth. Father struggles to sit up. Ning ning. Is that you? I'm not dreaming, am I? Mother's voice trembles uncontrollably. It's me, Mom. Don't make a sound. Follow me. I quickly step forward, and hand them water and chocolate. Eat and drink a little first. Regain your strength. Be quiet. My parents, as if grasping a lifeline, take them with trembling hands, taking small, desperate sips and bites. With food and water in their stomachs, a flicker of life finally returns to their faces. Is Wan? Is she across the way? Mother asks urgently, tears in her eyes. My expression darkens as I cut her off. Now's not the time for that. Mom, Dad, do you trust me? Father and Mother exchange a glance. They nod without hesitation. Good. No matter what happens next, don't be afraid, don't make a sound. Hold on tight, I say in a low voice. I grab Mother's arm with one hand, and support Father with the other. Then I focus my mind. Shrink. An invisible force envelopes the three of us. My parents' eyes widen in terror. The three of us have already shrunk down to being slightly larger than a grain of rice. We stand on what was once a stair step. Father gasps sharply. Mother grips my arm tightly. Don't be afraid. This is my ability, I whisper to reassure them. At the same time, I guide them into that 10 cubic meter miniature space. A pulling force sweeps over us. My parents vanish from beside me in an instant. System notification. Living organisms stored. Mental energy is being consumed at a minimal rate. Success. They're safe for now. I let out a sigh of relief. I shrink myself down again, to an even less noticeable size. I enter the house, lock the door, return to the bedroom, open the wardrobe's hidden door, and enter my safe zone. Only then, do I release my parents from the miniature space, and undo the shrinking effect on them. My parents return to their original size. They stand in the cozy, bright, and well-stocked with food living room of my miniature villa, a world apart from the apocalypse outside, completely stunned. They look around, then at me, then out the window, utterly unable to comprehend what they're seeing. Ning ning, where is this? How did we get here? Father stammers. This is my home, and our home from now on. I help them sit on the soft sofa. I hand them warm towels and water. I'll explain everything in detail. Slowly. You're safe now. You'll never go hungry or cold again, and no one will ever shut you out. Hearing this, Mother's eyes well up with tears again. I give a simple explanation about my rebirth and abilities, leaving out many details, but enough for them to understand the situation. My parents listen. The shock on their faces gradually replaced by heartache and fear. They hold my hands tightly. After settling my parents in, I return to the living room alone. The light mark on my back is still stuck at the 80% mark, emitting a soft blue glow. The system interface in my mind is clear and stable. My parents settled into the miniature villa. Mom ran her hand over the brand new bedsheets. Her eyes welled up again. Dad, on the other hand, was more interested in the villa's structure and my supplies. I gave him a quick tour. When he saw the entire wall of supplies, the thriving planting area, and the chirping chicks, he murmured, "My daughter's really something." Outside the window, the relentless downpour continued, along with the faint moan of the floodwaters. I briefly told them about Gu Wan's choice, and what Lu Chen's family had done. Mom finally sighed and wiped the corner of her eye. That's the path she chose. Dad clenched his fist, then released it. From now on, we never had that daughter. The peace lasted less than half a day. That afternoon, as usual, I pulled up the feed from the backup camera, hidden in Lu Chen's crown molding, wanting to see how the drama over there was progressing. But the scene that lit up the screen made me pause for a moment. In Lu Chen's living room, the atmosphere was completely different. Lu Chen, Wang Guifan, and Xiao Dagong were crammed on one side of the sofa, sitting stiffly. Their faces were etched with obvious fear and ingratiating smiles. Dominating the center of the room were three strangers, two men and a woman. The leader was a bald, muscular man, wearing a tight black tank top. All three carried a scent of blood, and the unique energy fluctuations of ability users, especially the bald one. His aura was the strongest, radiating a scorching pressure. The bald man spoke up. "You've got a girl here, who can enlarge food." Lu Chen nodded eagerly, bowing even lower. Yes, Brother Long. My girlfriend, Gu Wan, she has this special ability. He pointed at Gu Wan, who was hugging her knees and trembling. The bald, burly man glanced sideways at Gu Wan and scoffed. This one? She's as skinny as a chicken. How much energy could she possibly have? Lu Chen hurriedly explained, lowering his voice again, trying to be persuasive. Brother Long, don't judge her by how she looks now. She's just drained from overusing her power. Just give her some food to recover, and she'll be incredibly useful. Food is so precious these days. With her, it's like having a walking food supply. Brother Long didn't speak, just stared at Gu Wan. The red-haired woman spat out her cigarette butt. Boss, we're already here. Can't go back empty-handed. Those losers downstairs have pretty much cleaned the place out. These scraps won't feed anyone. She kicked an empty cookie bag by her foot. The tall, skinny guy added menacingly. I heard someone in this building used their ability to trade for stuff. Did pretty good business. Looks like it was you. Where's the goods? Lu Chen's face went pale. Stolen. It was stolen. Brother Long raised an eyebrow, his dagger pausing. It's true, Brother Long. Zhao Dagang cut in excitedly, pointing toward my place. We don't have time for your mess. We're taking the girl. Lu Chen and his family of 3 shuddered. Gu Wan suddenly looked up. The color drained from her face. She looked at Lu Chen in terror. Brother Lu. Lu Chen avoided her gaze, forcing a smile uglier than a grimace. He said, Brother Long, of course you can take Wan. It's just, you see, we did raise her up to this point. Shouldn't we get some compensation? Just a little food would do. Wang Guifan caught on and chimed in. Yes, Brother Long. This girl ate our food, drank our water, and we protected her. You can't just take her for free. Zhao Dagang was even more direct. At least give us a bag of rice. No, 2 bags. And a few cans. By Zhao Dagang's feet, his son's small body was curled up, wrapped in a dirty, tattered coat. It had long been still. Gu Wan stared at them blankly. Long Gu seemed amused by their shamelessness. He burst out laughing. He stood up. From a grimy backpack behind him, he pulled out a small sealed bag, and tossed it at Lu Chen's feet. A reward for you. The bag looked like it held, at most 2 handfuls of rice. Lu Chen was taken aback. He looked at the pathetic bag, then at Long Ji's unfriendly expression. He quickly bent down to pick it up, thanking him repeatedly. Thank you, Brother Long. Thank you. Lu Chen held the insignificant bag of rice. He even managed to squeeze out a relieved smile, as if he'd shed a huge burden. Long Gu paused, his sharp gaze fixed on my closed security door. He focused his senses, frowning. He didn't sense any strong energy fluctuations. Lu Chen said urgently, she must be hiding somewhere. On this floor. Maybe she has some kind of spatial ability. Spatial ability. A flash of greed appeared in Long Ji's eyes. Amplification abilities are valuable, but spatial abilities are strategic level assets in the apocalypse. He walked up to my door. He touched the cold metal door panel. He pressed his ear against it, hearing only dead silence. Break it open and check, Long Gu ordered. Search, Long Gu said tersely. The 3 of them fanned out, quickly and professionally checking each room, every corner. A few minutes later, they regrouped in my bedroom. Nothing. The tall, thin man shook his head. The walls and floor are solid. No hidden compartments. Long Gu stood in the center of the bedroom. His gaze finally settled on the shattered wardrobe. He walked over, and examined the smashed opening carefully. He reached in, felt around, and knocked on the back panel. It's empty, he concluded. Inside the miniature villa, I turned off the surveillance feed. My parents looked at me nervously. They had seen the footage too. Those people, Tingyu. Mother's voice trembled. They're other ability users. A small gang. They don't look weak, especially that bald guy. I analyzed calmly. They're after Gu Wan's ability. The light mark on my back grew slightly warm. The blue progress bar remained steady at 80%. Late at night, the sound of the heavy rain seemed to lessen. Using microsensors I'd left at a few hidden points outside, I monitored the activity on the floor. But around 2 a.m., the sensors picked up an extremely faint sound from the 28th floor fire escape. A landing sound no ordinary person could make. More than one person. I was instantly alert. I gathered all the external surveillance. The feed showed 3 figures quietly appearing in the hallway. It's Long Gu, the tall skinny guy, and the red-haired woman, but Gu Wan isn't among them. They have a clear target, heading straight for Lu Chen's place. They don't knock, just break the door lock directly. About 10 minutes later, Long Gu and the other 2 come out. The red-haired woman is holding a bag that's struggling non-stop. Judging by its shape and size, it looks like there's a person inside. The 3 of them quickly vanish into the fire escape. A double cross. Not surprising. Mom, Dad, I'm going out for a bit. I'll be right back. Lock the door. No matter what you hear, don't come out. I quickly instruct them. They don't try to stop me, just give serious warnings. I shrink myself down to the absolute minimum, and leave the miniature villa. Through a pre-made microchannel, I track them all the way to the 16th floor. This place is already half flooded. The murky water is littered with all kinds of trash. Long Gu and his crew seem to have a temporary base here. A suite with reinforced windows. I see them. Toss that struggling bag into a corner. 2 large duffel bags are placed in the middle. The bags are opened, and what rolls out is Lu Chen, with a rag stuffed in his mouth, tied up like a zongzi, his face full of terror and despair. Boss, what should we do with this trash? The red-haired woman asks. Long Gu sits on a broken crate, wiping his dagger. He glances at Lu Chen. Right then, the tall skinny guy suddenly looks toward the doorframe where I'm hiding. Something's there, he growls. My heart skips a beat. Discovered so quickly. Long Gu and the red-haired woman snapped into combat mode instantly. Weapons in hand, energy rippled around them. I knew I couldn't hide any longer. Hiding would just put me at a disadvantage. You guys are pretty good at this double-crossing game. All 3 of them were visibly startled to see me. Surprise flashed in Long Ji's eyes, followed by even greater interest and wariness. Long Gu narrowed his eyes. The shrinking ability. You're the elusive one from across the hall, I admitted frankly. My gaze swept over Lu Chen before returning to Long Gu. You took my sister, and cleaned up the trash. Pretty efficient. The red-haired woman raised an eyebrow. What? You want to stand up for her? I don't care about her. My voice was devoid of emotion. I'm just curious. You came all the way back here, just to catch this loser. I pointed at Lu Chen. Hearing my words, Lu Chen widened his eyes and shook his head frantically. Long Gu stared at me. We're more interested in the building itself. We heard someone here was trading with abilities, hoarding a lot of stuff. Though most of it's gone now, there should still be some leftovers. I'm more interested in you. Come with us. The light marks on my back began to burn persistently. The blue progress bar flickered slightly. Long Gu was getting impatient. He gave the tall, skinny guy a look, just as I was about to activate my shrinking zone to dodge the attack. Wait! Long Gu suddenly spoke up, stopping the tall, skinny guy. He stepped forward, staring intently at me. Confusion appeared on his fierce face. His voice was hoarse, as he asked tentatively, do you know someone called Old Cat? At the Veterans Mutual Aid Society in West City, before the storm. My whole body shuddered violently. Old Cat was from the first squad I formed in my previous life. A quiet comrade, but extremely reliable. That was his nickname. In the 2nd year of the apocalypse, he died covering our retreat, in a mutated rat tide. That incident, aside from a few core members of our squad, no one knows the details. The West City Veterans Mutual Aid Association was also, in my previous life, one of the earliest places I obtained supplies and intel, a secret base. How does he know? I snapped my gaze to Long Zhan's face, trying to find a familiar trace. No. Completely unfamiliar. I remained on guard, not answering immediately, and instead asked, who are you? How do you know Old Cat? Hearing my counter-question, Long Zhan waved his hand, signaling the tall, thin man and the red-haired woman to step back. So it really is you, Nightingale? Nightingale, that was my codename in my previous life. I was completely stunned. The red-haired woman and the tall, thin man also wore expressions of astonishment, looking at Long Zhan, then at me. Long Zhan told me that Old Cat had once saved him, and entrusted him with a final request before dying. If he ever encountered someone with the codename Nightingale, he must help them. Old Cat, My voice was hoarse. He's dead. Long Zhan's tone was low. That's exactly the version I know. All my doubts vanished. I looked at Lu Chen. Long Zhan stated bluntly. We grabbed him to interrogate him about my whereabouts and the supplies in the building. Then he changed the subject. He pointed out he'd taken Gu Wan for supplies, and had dealt with Lu Chen's family, asking for my stance. Whether Gu Wan lives or dies is none of my business. Lu Chen's family is trash. Getting rid of them is convenient. I answered without the slightest hesitation. Long Zhan smiled and signaled Scorpion to deal with Lu Chen. I turned around, paying no further attention to the brief, muffled sound behind me. Long Zhan directly proposed cooperation, using my stronghold as a base. They would provide combat power and security. I would lead the distribution of supplies. I proposed obeying safety arrangements, not harming innocents, and no infighting. I would oversee supplies, confidentiality, and other conditions. He agreed without hesitation. At that very moment, the scar on my back burned intensely. A blue progress bar rapidly filled to 100% in my mind. The microdominion system was fully activated. My ability evolved into spatial microdominion. Immense power surged through my entire body. I could clearly perceive both inside and outside the microspace. Long Zhan keenly sensed the change in me. Welcome to my ark, I said to them. But first, let's take care of some minor business. I quietly led them back to my home on the 28th floor. Right in front of them, I opened the real entrance behind the wardrobe. It led to my microspace. Seeing that deep entrance, and the brightly lit, miniature villa world inside, I entered first. The complete facilities inside, the abundant supplies, left even them, who were accustomed to the apocalypse, speechless. I introduced my parents to them. After simply settling the 3 of them in an empty room on the first floor, I returned to the living area with my parents. We had just sat down, when the warning sensors on the villa's outer layer emitted a faint vibration. It was Gu Wan, crying and pleading outside the bedroom door. Her voice was wretched. Through the intercom, I called her name, my voice cold. She frantically admitted her wrongs. Said she shouldn't have stolen the special ability, shouldn't have trusted Lu Chen, shouldn't have pushed me. I asked her if she remembered why she didn't open the door when our parents came. She argued that Lu Chen stopped her, that she was scared. I called her out. Every time, she chose Lu Chen. Now, with nowhere else to turn, she remembers we're blood. She wailed. Sis, we're family. I told her. From the moment she put Lu Chen above everything else, we stopped being family. Your heart was already tied to theirs. Now they're dead. You have no ties to the Gu family either. She broke down, screaming for our parents to save her. Mother wept in silence. Father closed his eyes and shook his head. I made my final judgment. Your dear brother Lu and his family are waiting for you down below. Don't come back, or I'll clean house myself. With that, I cut the comms and strengthened the barrier. Outside, the crying, cursing, and pounding slowly faded away. The system's light traces vanished as the power fully merged. Long Zhan approached, asking if it was handled. I nodded. He asked about the plan. I said, rest, train, consolidate resources. Use that as a foundation to uncover the truth of the apocalypse and live better. And to find out what happened to Old Cat. Find our other comrades. A fire ignited in Long Zhan's eyes. My thoughts exactly. Inside the miniature villa, my parents finally shed their burden. Long Zhan's squad got familiar with the place. I felt the weight of this power and responsibility. Our ark in the apocalypse had set sail.